Hi guys, and welcome back to the free online Magento course. In this lesson we're going to explore how to set up the computer so that you could put on Magento onto the system. And what we mean by that is that Magento needs to run in a kind of an environment. One way to think of this is, imagine you have an iPhone and you want to run an Android app on it. As you can understand, it won't work. You can't go to the Android store and download the app and install it because it needs a certain environment. It needs a certain workspace in order to work. Magento is the same way. Magento needs a certain workspace in order to work and in order to run properly. So let's go right ahead and check this out and see what we need to do. So what we're going to actually go ahead and do over here is we're going to download a program called Zamp. And as it's installing and as we're downloading it, I'll explain a little bit more what this is all about. So what you'll do is you'll go to Google and you'll type in download Zamp, as you can see what I'm doing. And you'll see right here the first link actually is right here. I've already clicked on it. And you'll see Zamp for Windows. So this is for installing Zamp on your local Windows machine. And I'm actually currently running Windows 7 Professional. And you scroll down and go to the download section, click on Zamp. And it'll bring you a few different options of what you can download. I prefer using the installer because it's just simpler and easier to use. And it's going to bring you to another page and automatically it should start downloading. If not, you can click here on the direct link or in the mirror. And I've actually downloaded this, so I'm just going to go straight ahead and start installing it and show you what this is all about. So when I double click the Zamp file that I've downloaded, it's going to ask me for permission to run, and it will bring up this nice graphic and ask me if I want to install it. I'm going to click next. I'm going to let the default here, keep it, and select all the options that they have. I'm going to click next. I'm going to let it install to C Zamp, and it's saying it's not empty because I had it in here before, and it's asking me to select a different folder, so I'm just going to select some other folder I'm going to make over here. Let's make a new folder, and I'll just call it Zamp 2. There we go. Alright, and I don't want to learn more about Bitnami for now. Alright, now as it's installing, I'll explain to you a little bit about what's going on here and what we're trying to do. In order for Magento to run, it usually runs on what's called a lamp stack. Lamp as in something that gives off light, you know, a lamp in your room, in your bedroom. Now lamp actually is an acronym, and it actually stands for 4 things. So I'm just going to open up Notepad here so you can see a little bit quickly what this lamp stuff is, and we'll talk about each one. The first one is called Linux. Now, usually you will hear when we say Magento runs on lamp, it'll usually be say it runs on the lamp stack. The reason it's a stack is because there's actually different layers to the computer software that you're running, and each layer provides a different service or a different feature allowing Magento to run. The first thing in the lamp stack is Linux. And Linux basically is an operating system. Another operating system could be Windows, or you might have Android, or iOS. These are all different operating systems. So usually when Magento runs on a lamp stack, which means it usually runs with Linux as the operating system. The next thing that it installs is a thing called Apache. Apache is the web server. We'll soon talk about what that is all about. On top of Apache we install MySQL, which is a database system. We'll talk about that. And then on top of that we install PHP. And let's go quickly into each one and explain what's going on and what's happening as our Zamp is installing. So let's start with PHP, with the last one on the list. So it's simple. Let's go into that. When we want to run Magento, so usually when you have a program that runs on your computer, usually you have a special file type. So on Windows, for example, all programs end with extension .exe. And when you double click the file, it'll run and execute the program. Now, when you run a PHP file, when you run Magento, Magento is written in a language called PHP. And in order for it to run, it's not like a file that you could just double click and it'll run. It needs what's called an interpreter. And it interprets the files on the fly. So this way you don't have to compile them and you don't have to rebuild them each time. It's just you have like this text file with all your PHP code and you let PHP process it. So the first thing you need to do is basically tell the computer how to listen to the instructions of PHP and let it be able to process those instructions. Without installing this PHP program, the computer is just going to think it's just a text file with just a bunch of gibberish in it. Now, PHP itself also comes with a bunch of modules that you can plug into it. Think of these like an expansion packs for your game. So PHP has a bunch of expansion packs that you can have, and Magento needs certain ones. And when we install Zamp, Zamp comes with all the appropriate expansion packs that we need. The next thing that we're going to go up is we're going to go up to the MySQL. Now, MySQL is really a database system, and what this means is that Magento is a really good program, but Magento is going to save information about different things. For example, about products. It might save information about different customers, and all this information has to be saved somewhere. So in most programs, when they want to save a ton of information, especially if there's a lot, they save it in what we call a database, which we'll talk more about as we learn more classes. But in this case, the type of database is called a MySQL database. The next thing that Zamp is installing is Apache, and Apache is a web server. Now, a web server, there's a lot of explanations and a lot of things to learn about web servers, but being the fact that we want to learn about Magento, we're just going to cover this in a really quick way, in a way that's just easy to understand. Think of Apache as a way to connect to the outside world. And it basically means that in order for Magento to act like a website, in order for us to be able to edit it on our computer and see how it would look like as a website, we use Apache to mimic what would look like in real life. And it's basically a way to connect to the outside world. Now, I said earlier that usually Magento runs on a LAMP stack, which would mean it uses Linux. Now, we're running Windows. So for this reason, this is why it's called Zamp. The X represents Windows. In this case, so we're installing Windows, which we already have. We're putting in Apache, we're putting in MySQL, and we're putting in PHP. Let's go ahead and see what's going on over here and see. We're not going to save this. Oh, we finished running. Now, when you finish installing a Zamp, what basically happens is you can watch and start the control panel. So we're going to keep that on so we can see what the control panel is all about. Now, the way to access this control panel, actually, I'm just going to turn this off for a second. The way you can get to your control panel is over here in the bottom right corner. There's a little tray, and you can show or hide the control panel. We're going to show it again. And over here, it basically has a bunch of programs, but it's not actually running. Apache is not running, as you can see in MySQL. So we're going to turn those on, and we're going to actually test them to see if they're working. So we're going to start this one, and oh, there's some type of error. Making some problems here. Let's see if we can figure out what the issue is. It's attempting to start now. Hopefully it will. This is probably because I uninstalled and reinstalled into a different directory, which is usually not used to. Let's go quickly see if we can get this to work. Make sure that everything is running fine. Let's just quickly check the log file and see what it is that might have gone wrong. Let's see. Let's go into here and we'll go into Apache, and here is usually the log files, the error. Nope, not in here. It's logs. Where did he say to go? Logs error.log. Oh, I guess he put it into Zamp itself. I gotcha. Let's go back up. Go into Zamp. Into logs. Actually Apache, then logs. And error log. Let's see what his problem is. Okay. Alright, I think the problem was because I installed into a different directory. So I'm just going to copy all these files here, and I'm going to paste them into regular Zamp. See what happens. Yep. We're going to merge the folder and skip. Any file that I can't write to, we'll just skip because it's already there. So this is actually, an example of where things can go wrong. And in this case, it's, because I tried to, one second, let's just go over here and don't move. Here's an example where something went wrong, and we're just going to go ahead and fix it by just replacing all the files here. But usually you shouldn't be having these problems when you install Zamp. It's just because I, basically had 2 versions of Zamp installed. Oh, it's still not working. So let's see what we could do over here. I have an idea. Let's just go here, go to Zamp, and here we go. Let me exit this guy, and let me close this guy. Let's start. Oop, whoops, Zamp control. Okay. Now, actually now it looks like it might be running. Let me just click stop and restart it. Okay, this is really what it's supposed to look like. So basically, sorry about that guys, you'll see it becomes green, and you see it's running Apache, and it's running MySQL, and that's just because I was running it from the wrong directory. I installed it into a different directory. You just keep the default setting, and now we're going to test it and see if it works. Let's go ahead and do that. So, the way to test this is that your computer actually has, even if your computer is not a server, like it's not talking to the internet and you don't have a website address, you could actually dial kind of your computer's telephone number. Now, the way it basically works is when you go to Google, you're actually just kind of like looking up in your phone book, and it's going to look up Google's telephone number and connect to it. I mean, it's obviously not a telephone number, it's called an IP address in computers, but I'll just show you what this means. I'm going to, I just pressed Windows plus R to bring up the command prompt, and I wrote CMD, and I'm going to show you what happens here. I'm going to go ping google.com, and you'll see that I'm getting a reply from an IP address. You see 74.125.228.105. So this is basically Google's, telephone number. Now, there's a special telephone number that you could put in here called an IP address, which actually goes directly straight to your computer. So it's called, here's the number, it's 127.0.0.1. Now watch what happens. See that? It brings me to a page that says Zamp for Windows. It says, congratulations, you have successfully installed Zamp. Now actually, by you, it might actually look different when you go there. There might actually be a language selection where you have to first select the language, but once you click English, it'll bring you to this page. And here you see that it's successfully installed. It says a great thank you to Hack Attack 142. Don't worry, your computer's fine. Just that's the guy's name. And there's one more thing we're going to check. As we saw earlier, we also have MySQL. Let's see if MySQL is running properly. So we could do this by typing in 127.0.0.1/php myadmin. Here you go like that. And here we have this page comes up. This is our connection to our database. As you can see, everything is running great. And thank you for staying on for this video and going through with our problems here. We are now going to end this lesson, and hopefully next lesson we're going to learn how to actually install Magento on our system. Have a great day.